Hey, what's up guys, Lucas here and welcome to another video. Today we're gonna be painting Dolores Madrigal from the movie Encanto. Dolores was certainly one of my favorite characters from the whole movie, so the moment that I saw her on the screen I thought to myself, I want to draw this character. I'm gonna be doing this whole painting on the iPad. I'm gonna be starting the painting in Procreate, which is my favorite painting app here on the iPad. And then later we are going to be using also the iPad, but we're gonna be using Photoshop in the iPad. Now, if you're wondering how the hell am I going to use Photoshop in the iPad to paint an illustration, then you haven't heard from the sponsor from today's video, which is Astropad, an app that lets you mirror the screen from your PC or Mac onto your iPad to basically turn it into a display tablet. For the ones of you that have watched my videos, you know that I like to divide my painting in many steps. That way I can keep the complexity low. In this case, we're going to start with step number 1, which is references. Now normally it would be enough to just grab some references and put them on one side of the screen like I'm doing right here in Pinterest, but in this case I really liked the style that the movie had and the anatomy of the characters, and I wanted to kind of gather a little bit of the personality of the characters, so I decided to make a couple of studies first of Dolores. That means nothing fancy, just a couple of sketches of her in a couple of poses to gather like what is her body language, and also of her face to gather what are her proportions. I don't know about you, but sometimes for me it is not enough to just look at a picture for me to completely understand it, but sometimes the only way for me to understand it completely is to make either a painting or a drawing of that image, and that way I can really gather every single detail of that image. For all of these initial sketches I am using one of my brushes, the LP2B. It is one of my favorite ones for sketching, and if you want to support this channel and support my content, then look for the link in the description where you can get the full pack with these and many more brushes that you can use for inking, painting, sketching and portraits and many other things. And now on to step number 2. So once I felt like I understood what was her personality and also a little bit of her body language, I went to draw what I wanted to be the pose for her illustration. In this case, I ended up with something very similar to how she looks in the poster of the movie. I tried to give her a worried look because she seems to be worried all the time during the movie about the secrets of everybody that she's listening to. So I definitely wanted to have that in her face. I usually like to have at least a couple of passes on the line art or on the drawing of the illustration, and in this case I decided to just give it that, 2 passes. So that's why step number 3 after the sketch is the line art or the final line. I was definitely trying to get away from the style of the movie. I wanted the character to just be recognizable as Dolores, but not be the style of the movie because I didn't want to make just a copy of it. So once the line art is ready, we are ready to go to step number 4, which is masking. Now, masking is one of the steps that I receive the most questions about in all my videos, because it is a bit hard to understand maybe for the people that don't use this in their workflow, but it is definitely one of the most essential parts of any of my workflows, and one of the reasons why a lot of the people tell me that my illustrations look clean or three-dimensional is because of these steps. So if you want to achieve a certain that same look in your illustrations, I definitely recommend it. So what does it mean? Masking is essentially creating new layers and painting flat color silhouettes for each of the elements that you have in the painting. So for example, in this character you can see that I made a layer for the face, a layer for the hair, the eyebrows, one for the bow, etc. Each of the parts that I can paint on the character separately, I am gonna divide in a different layer. Now this is a very laborious process, not very fun, but believe me, it might take a while, but it will help you a ton in the later parts of the painting when you're trying to achieve clean results. And with that, I was ready to go to step number 5, which is base colors. And this one is very simple. You just want to grab all of the masks that you created and adding what you would consider is the base or the middle color of each of the elements. So for example, what would be kind of a middle color of her skin, of her dress, hair, etc. What I'm recommending here in this step is to not go ultra saturated or very dark or very light. So instead, try to maintain or keep yourself to the center of the chromatic circle. That way you will have a much easier time later painting the shadows. Now finally we are ready to go to step number 6, which is where the fun of this painting starts, that is the shadows. Now before you start making those shadows, you gotta decide or agree with yourself what is going to be the light scenario that your character is going to be in. That is one by far maybe the biggest mistake that I see artists do with their light and their character paintings, and that is you just go at it without realizing or committing to a single unique light source. So after this I got stuck with one of the most common issues that painting in Procreate has, that is, depending on the size of your document, you're limited to a certain amount of layers. And you know, if you see my workflow, I like my layers. Fortunately, there are ways for you to solve this problem, and today I'm gonna tell you about one of my favorite ones, which is Astropath Studio, a software that allows you to mirror the screen of your PC, either Windows or Mac, onto your iPad, essentially turning your iPad into a professional display tablet for your desktop or laptop computer. Astropath Studio has many features, but I'm gonna tell you that one of my favorite ones is that it lets you use touch controls in your iPad to control the software in your computer. That is a feature that only the most premium display tablets out there in the market let you do. Things like double tap for undo or triple tap for redo. If you want to see my full review of Astropath Studio, you can go in the link that is popping on the screen right now, and if not, then you can directly click the first link on the description and go and try Astropath Studio free for 30 days. Thank you Astropath for sponsoring this video. So with the illustration exported and now painting inside Photoshop on my PC computer, I am ready to do as many layers as it takes to make this illustration. When I am doing this part of the painting, I have a ton of things going inside my head. That is precisely why I like to divide my paintings on as many steps as possible so that I can keep my head and this illustration simplified. But there are 3 things that I definitely have to keep in my head. One of them is the position, color and intensity of the light. So where is it, how strong it is, and what is the color of it. Second, I try to always have in mind what is the simple geometric shape of the elements that I'm painting. So which ones are simple cylinders, spheres, cones, cubes, etc. And the third, and maybe more important than the other ones, is to keep a general view of the whole illustration. Work always from general to specific. That means I'm not going in there, zero down on the face and try to finish that thing. I am always going for passes, okay? Paint a little bit of the hair, face, torso, skirt. Zoom out, check it out again, and go and give it another pass. That is super important. Almost always I forget 1 or 2 masks that I didn't do at the start of the process. In this case, I completely forgot about the details that Dolores had on her skirt. So I went in there, I grabbed again the LP Creamy Solid, and I started drawing those gold and pink pattern that Dolores has on her skirt. And once we're done with step number 6, the shadows, we are ready to start with number 7, and that is the highlights. Now I know that highlights are very tempting, and every artist I think struggles with the battle of putting them from the pure start of the painting. I know that at least I do. I want to put them all the way from the start, always, especially the ones in the eyes, because I want those characters to feel alive and shiny and all nice. But it's very important that you contain yourself and you don't put them until your shadows are complete. I put majority of them on the face, on the eyes and on the nose, but I also receive a little bit of highlights for parts like the bow on her head and also the little gold details that she has on her outfit. And step number 8 is the final one, and it is post-production. This is a step that a lot of artists skip, but it is very, very important. Post-production is the act of coming in there and photoshopping the hell out of your painting to make it look just cooler. In this case, I am including this step as post-production, although you can call it just regular old painting, and this is adding a rim light on the side of the character. I decided to add a clipping mask to the whole silhouette of the character and putting it in color dodge mode to make a bright light coming from the right side of the character. This is something that I don't add on all my characters, but I definitely find that it helps to make them pop out of the illustration. Now there is a small step that I am skipping over here, and that is the overpaints. You can squeeze that in between the highlights and the post-production. The overpaint is where I basically grab the whole character, all the layers and everything, and I just merge them onto one single layer and I start straight up painting on top. This is one of the parts that takes the most amount of time out of the whole painting, so if you want to learn a little bit more about my overpaint process and in general just a more in-depth look on how do I do my illustrations, my character paintings and my workflow in general, then you can check out also the link down there in the description for Digital Painting Master, my full-on painting course so that you can become a master of digital painting. And that is it. Here is the final painting of Dolores Madrigal from Encanto. Thank you very much guys for watching this video till the end. I'll see you guys on the next one. Bye.